What's up everyone, Anwar Thinks back once again, and today I'm going to be talking about the FIFA World Cup 2022 draw and break it down. Let's kick it off with Group A. You've got host Qatar, you've got Ecuador, you've got Senegal and the Netherlands. I absolutely love this group. First of all, it epitomises World Cup football because you don't have two European teams in there, which you sometimes get, and we're going to get to that later on in the draw. What you have is teams from four separate continents. Obviously Qatar, Asia, Africa's Senegal, Ecuador from South America, and the Netherlands are from Europe. So you don't have this thing where there's two European teams playing each other. There's this nice dynamic where every game is going to be a true celebration of world football. And listen, I absolutely love that concept. And not just that, anything can happen in this group. And let me break down why. First of all, you got host Qatar. You would expect them to be the weakest team in the competition because they've never featured in a World Cup before, and the only reason they're qualifying this time is because they're the host. But anything can happen when you're the host nation. The country gets behind you, you have all the best facilities because obviously you can book them all out. Things might just roll your way. You know, the neutral fans will get behind you as well. So they have that behind them. But Ecuador, what they have in their favour is they play Qatar first. So that might not have really grown yet. People may grow into Qatar through the World Cup and, let's be honest, realistically through the group stages. So Ecuador get in there first. In the very first game of the World Cup, by the way, they could put up a massive win, put up like, let's say, 7 goals or something ridiculous like that, have a huge goal difference and be in a really strong position for the rest of the group stages. Now, also, in that first rotation of games, you've got Senegal versus the Netherlands, which, by the way, is Virgil van Dijk versus his teammate Sadio Mane. But, again, Senegal just became African Cup of Nations champions a couple of months ago, so they have got a lot going for them at the moment. After, funnily enough, Sadio Mane beat his teammate Mo Salah of Egypt in that final, and then also qualified past them to get to the World Cup, this time with Egypt falling by the wayside. This one is a very, very interesting group. It could go either way. My predictions, though, would be very possibly Netherlands 1, Senegal 2 as the qualifiers, but I would not be surprised to see Ecuador put up a massive win, maybe sneak 2 draws and then just about sneak through and qualify. Next up is an extremely interesting group because you have England versus the USA versus Iran versus one of the following. It's either going to be Wales, Scotland or Ukraine. Now, we all know what's going on at the moment with Ukraine. I think by the time the World Cup rolls around, that pro-Ukrainian sentiment may be higher than ever. And I think a lot of people are going to get behind Ukraine. So when it comes to having neutral fans in the arena, in the stadium, I don't think that's going to happen with Ukraine. I think they're all going to be Ukraine fans when it comes to it. So if they get to the World Cup, that's a massive, massive thing in their favour. If Wales or Scotland get there, they're drawn in the same group as England. If they get through, they're definitely going to play them in the group stages, which is just a mouth-watering fixture. Obviously, we saw England versus Scotland in the last Euros. We saw England versus Wales in Euros a few years ago. So it's not like we've not seen it before, but the fact that it's going to happen possibly at the World Cup, if one of them get through, will happen. Oh, it's just mouth-watering. And then you've got Iran versus USA. You talk about war. You talk about two countries who are always kind of eyeing each other up like, hey, what are you doing? You put your hands in your pockets. You got a gun in that pocket. No, mate, I've not got a gun in my pocket. I'm getting chewing gum out of my pocket. What? You got a gun in your pocket? No, I'm just checking if you... Whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's like that kind of Spider-Man meme where like they're both pointing at each other like, whoa, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Interesting dynamic there as well. Obviously, England would be your favourites to go through, and I would say my second favourite to go through would be whoever qualifies out of those European countries. Imagine that. A Scotland, Wales, Ukraine going through. With what's going on in the Ukraine at the moment, they get through to the knockout stages. Buff. Could we have a Greece story on our hands where like a true underdog rises up and with all that neutral support behind them really pushes deep into the competition? It very, very much could happen, but hey, it could also happen with Wales and Scotland getting through. They might have a trickier time of it, but then again, it depends how it breaks down and who they end up playing in the next round. It's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Group C is another four corners of the globe situation. You've got Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico and Poland. Represented areas North America, South America, Europe and Asia. I love it. I love it. Everyone expects a fiery game when Mexico and Argentina face off against each other. This is most likely going to be Lionel Messi's last World Cup. At the moment, he's had a very quiet season at PSG. I'll be honest with you, I expect him to have a very, very good World Cup. Now, looking at this group, Argentina are going to kick off with Saudi Arabia. Again, like I said before with Qatar and Ecuador. The South American team can put up massive numbers here on the Asian team. Argentina could very realistically beat Saudi Arabia a 9 or a 10-0. It could happen. The 7-0, like I mentioned before, I honestly don't think Ecuador will do that. I think Ecuador might win like 3-0, 3-1, something like that. But in this game, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, I think they can put on massive numbers in that. And I would say if I was Argentina manager, you'd rest Lionel Messi, but he's not going to want to be rested. He's going to want to pad those stats. He's going to want to get off to a great run. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him score like 4 or 5 goals in this opening game, or just do what he's doing at PSG at the moment, turn provider and really set all that stuff up. As a lot of you already know, my mum's Polish, so I've always got a vested interest in Poland. So not just have you got Lionel Messi in this group, you've also got Robin Lewandowski. This group, I'll be honest with you, this Saudi Arabia, I'm going to discount them. You know, no disrespect, but when we're looking at this group, I'd love to say Argentina and Poland to go through. Mexico are a strong team, though. Mexico can always cause problems. If I'm going to put my money on the line, I'm going to probably go with Argentina and Mexico to go through. It's going to be in a hot country. They're both hot countries. They're going to be more used to it. But I'd love to see Poland go through. But hey, Argentina and Mexico is my prediction in this one. Group D is another one where it's not fully formed yet, because we have got France with Denmark, Tunisia, and one of the following. It's going to be the UAE, Australia, or Peru. Now, you would expect this to be Australia. You'd expect Australia to be able to beat quite handily the UAE and Peru. But you never know what's going to happen, especially when it's the World Cup. All those emotions are involved. Every player is mega up for it because this could be their one chance to make it to a World Cup. There's just so much going on here. France, Denmark. This is a game that really, really doesn't intrigue me that much. Because it's 2 European teams, we could kind of see this at any time, any year. It's not one that intrigues me. France, Tunisia. Now, Tunisia was under France rule for, a few years. So the fact that that's going to happen, that will be an interesting one. There will be some, tensions there, and especially political tensions there. So that's one to keep an eye on. But yeah, in terms of who's going to go through, I would imagine it's going to be France and Denmark, regardless of who goes through from UAE, Peru, or Australia. Australia and Peru, both hot countries. They could do it. Hey, Tunisia could throw up a surprise. But yeah, I'm anticipating in this one a quite easy one for Denmark, and especially world champions France. Now, Group E is what they would call traditionally the group of death, because the first 2 teams drawn out were Spain and Germany. And when Lothar Matthäus read out Germany and put him in the same group as Spain, you could see that look in his eyes like, oh no, this is going to be a problem. And alongside them is going to be Japan, and then one of the 2. It's going to be one of New Zealand and Costa Rica. Now, I'll be honest with you, I expect Spain and Germany to breeze through these groups. They could have problems, but I think this would be too much for any of those 3 teams to handle. New Zealand, Costa Rica and Japan. But, like I said, anything can happen in these games. Spain have got a lot of young talent. Now, how many of them will they take to the World Cup? That will be an interesting one. I think if they look at this group stage, they might be like, ooh, we might be able to get away with playing some of our younger talents because they'll be good enough to play like against Japan, for example. And the Japanese side, they're not going to be ones for bruising you and stuff like that. Now, playing against Costa Rica, that might be a different story. 2 Spanish-speaking countries, I probably wouldn't play my youngsters against Costa Rica. But yeah, the dynamics are a little bit interesting there. But Spain and Germany to go through, I think this is the most solid lock of the entire tournament. Group F. This is one that a lot of card fans are going to be massively interested in, because Canada have made it to the World Cup, and a lot of Canada fans are into the cards. And I know Mexican fans and American fans, obviously, but Canada don't usually make it to the World Cup. I think, is this the 2nd time they've ever made it or something like that? In this group, Belgium, Canada. That's going to be the first game. Canada are going to have a rude awakening to the World Cup, I think. Going against Belgium, that team that were always talked about as a golden generation, that they should do this, they should do that. Do you know what? Now I'm talking about it, I think Canada could maybe cause them a little bit of surprise, because you have a lot of big names in this team. You have De Bruyne, you have Lukaku, you have Hazard, if he's in the mood for it, Thibaut Courtois. These are massive stars in the world of football. Canada don't really have those names. They have, you know, Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, players like that. Not to the level of these players, but with it being their first World Cup, they may be mega up for it. They may just be able to nick a point off Belgium and then go into the next two games with Morocco and with Croatia. Croatia had a very disappointing Euros. When I saw Croatia play against England, I thought England were much the better team, even though it was 1-0, wasn't it? I was at the game, I did a vlog about it, you can go see that on my channel if you want to. I thought Croatia were a little bit disappointing, England were much the better team. Then in the tournament, Croatia didn't really shine as much as you kind of expect them to as a team that got to the World Cup final last time around. Do I expect them to get to the World Cup final this time around? I kind of think there may be an opportunity there for Canada to cause some surprise. I think Canada versus Morocco, Canada should be able to breeze through that. But again, I go back to the fact that this is a hot country. The Moroccans, they may just have that extra thing behind them. Who's going to go through from this? I think the easy thing to say is Belgium and Croatia. But I'm going to mix it up, actually. I'm going to go with Croatia and Canada, you know. I don't know why. I just feel like this so-called golden generation of Belgium, I think it's too many delicious ingredients not making a good cake. Like if you make a cake, the flour is so important. The flour is not a tasty ingredient. You don't look at the flour and go, oh, I can't wait to shove that in my mouth. But the flour is so important. The egg is so important. The margarine is so important to making that cake. You don't need, you know, 8 different beautiful tasting toppings. You need the cake base. You need that to be good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I say this as if I know anything about cooking. I'm a terrible cook, but still, you know what I'm saying. Group G is another with 2 European teams. We've got Brazil, we've got Serbia, Switzerland and Cameroon. Brazil, they're an easy one for me to say they're going to go through. But out of the other 3 teams, I honestly think any of them could go through. Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon, they all seem to be teams that are kind of very similar to each other in skill. If I'm one of those 3 teams, I'm looking at this draw thinking, do you know what? We could go through it. If we play our cards right, we can go through. I think Serbia have the toughest challenge here because they're going to go into this with a lot of confidence. They're going to play Brazil and most likely they're going to lose against Brazil. Where Switzerland versus Cameroon in the first game, even if that's a draw, they can carry that forward and still play well going forward in the tournament. Let's say they take a Switzerland-Cameroon, it's a draw. Switzerland would then, I think they would be playing against Brazil. I expect them to maybe lose that one. And then you got Cameroon versus Serbia. Cameroon coming off a draw, might be able to beat Serbia there. And then if you go into the final game, Cameroon's flying, Brazil probably already through. Cameroon maybe nick a point off Brazil, qualify that way. There's so much that could go on here, but looking at it, the way that it's shaping up, if the route of those fixtures is going to be that way, I think Cameroon and Brazil are the teams to go through. And finally, Group H, we have got Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay and South Korea, another 4 corners of the globe group. And I absolutely love it. This is going to be a 4-week festival of football. It is a love letter to the world. I don't know how you can not get into the World Cup. It's my favourite sporting event that there is, I'll be completely honest with you. When it's the World Cup, I watch every single game. Unless I'm busy or like, you know, the work hours end up being a bit daft, end up working during it, I watch every single game. I absolutely love it. And just reading over these groups, it just fills me with so much excitement. Looking at this group though, you've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who, let's be honest, this is probably going to be his last World Cup, because he's got those legal issues waiting for him in America. Soon, if he does last another 4 years, is he going to be able to go to America? We're not too sure how. We don't really know what's going on with that. You've got Ghana. You've got Uruguay. Luis Suarez. Could it be Luis Suarez's last World Cup? 2 bad guys who world football, if you ask me. Suarez and Ronaldo in the same group. How beautiful would it be if Ghana and South Korea go through? You got Son from Spurs. A lot of people fall in love with this guy. He could be the thing that pushes South Korea forward. This group, we talked about the group of death before because like they're two massive teams. Here you literally have any two of these four teams could go through. Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, South Korea. If you match any of those teams up, I wouldn't be surprised if any of them beat the other team. It would never be a huge shock. Whereas you look at one of the other groups, like let's say the England, Iran, USA one. If Iran or USA were to beat England, that would be a shock. America aren't a bad team. Iran have made it to the World Cup on merit, but you would expect England to be able to beat them both, or at least draw with them. In this group, any team can beat anyone, and it wouldn't be a surprise. The storylines here is fascinating. There's so much going on. Who do I think will win the World Cup? Just looking at this, there's a glint in my eye. There's a glint in my eye looking at this. And that glint is for the Three Lions. I would love to see, obviously, goes without saying, I would love to see England go all the way and win the World Cup after being at Wembley for England versus Italy. Watching England go up in the first 5 minutes through Luke Shaw. Watching Italy get a scrappy goal back where it's bounced off the post, it's bounced there and it's just been tucked away. Watching Chiellini pull back Bukayo Saka. Watching England go ahead in the penalties. And then watching England miss 3 penalties in a row. After seeing all that, to see England lift the World Cup would be phenomenal. Looking at their group, they shouldn't be too knackered by the end of it. Iran, USA, whether it's Wales, Scotland or Ukraine, those are all 3 games that England should be able to get through without much resistance. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to walk this group. I'm not going to say that they're going to go into this group and going to smash everyone 5-0. But what I am going to say is that I think they should get through comfortably. Whether that is a win and 2 draws, whether that's 3 wins and they're winning them 20-0 apiece, is a different story. But I think they're going to be able to get through. I think they're going to be able to get through without too much resistance. Draws don't matter. I know a lot of Scotland fans took pride in the draw with England in the Euros. But as you saw, it doesn't really matter because England still got to the final. They just wanted to get through. That's all they needed to do. I think looking at this, if Southgate can keep that management, if he can just manage expectations enough and motivate the players in the right way in the final, get into the final if they can, I see a lot of potential for England in this World Cup. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they come up against a Germany or someone like that in the quarters, in the second round, in the semis, something like that, and get knocked out. I wouldn't be surprised because there's a lot of good teams in it. Like I said before, I expect Lionel Messi to have a massive World Cup. Looking at his group again one more time, Poland, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, the same thing with England. I imagine they'll be able to get through without too much resistance. Not just that, I honestly think coming out of this group, Lionel Messi could have 5 goals under his belt. I wouldn't be surprised if Lionel Messi coming out of this group has about 7 goals to his name, because I think he could put up massive numbers against Saudi Arabia if he's in that zone and really up for it that day. Whether that happens, it's a different story. I've got a little bit of a feeling as well about Lionel Messi. That, like I said before, he's having a quiet season. Maybe not specifically building himself to the World Cup, but I think the fact that he is having a quiet season, the fact he's going to have an easy end to the season at PSG, he could really be that fire behind Argentina going all the way this time. So maybe those are my 2 predictions. I think England's coming from the heart, and I think Argentina's coming like from the, not a conspiracy theorist, but like an interested part of a prediction. But I'll be honest with you, I would love to see Lionel Messi lift the World Cup. I think that would be very, very much deserved. I think he's the greatest player who's ever played football. Well, apart from me, but you know, I wasn't given the chances by the scouts because obviously I was too good in it. I was too good. Oh, I had a knee injury like all the blokes said. No. So drop me your comments down below in the comments section. Hit that big thumbs up button and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and ding that notification bell. That way, every time I make a video, you will be the first person who hears about it. I'll be making loads of videos. 1, in the run-up to the World Cup. 2, whilst the World Cup is on. I'm considering trying to get to Qatar. I'm not sure I'll be able to, but I'm considering it. Anyway, with that, I am out. Thank you very, very much for watching.